Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at Level Up Expo 2023. It was another major that happened this weekend in Vegas and it was incredibly stacked. There were so many amazing sets, so many amazing players showed up, and we're just going to get right into it. Our 13th place finishers were Goblin, Frog, Krieg, and Wrath. Our 9th place finishers were MVD, Capitancito, Ven, and Naito. Our 7th place finishers were Zomba and Mars. 5th place was Salt1 and Mr. E. 4th place was Cosmos. 3rd place was Sonix. 2nd was Tweak. And 1st was Light. We're going to be taking a look at all the top 16 as well as a couple breakout runs throughout the tournament. Now, the first player that we're going to take a look at is going to be Andrik. Andrik had an amazing weekend. He was able to get this upset over Justice. If you don't know who Andrik is, by the way, he's an amazing Captain Falcon player from Mexico. He's been making waves recently. He's up and coming for sure. And I think he's someone that is really, really good. He's one of the best players in the world at last day, at least from what I've seen of him. He's incredible in that situation. Like, he could be at 180 and he's still killing you at like 30, no fear. He's going for down airs, nair ones, up airs, just raw forward airs. He doesn't care. He gets the conversions and he wins those games. He's absolutely unreal. He's able to beat Justice in Falcon Min-Min, and that matchup is absolutely abysmal. I think that shows like some really, really promising strengths for Andrik. I think he's an amazing player that could go super far. He did unfortunately fall to Tweak and Goblin right after that, but those are two very, very good losses, especially the Tweak one. That literally doesn't hurt you at all because Tweak is top 4 in the world. But Andrik should be very happy with his performance. He played out of his mind this weekend, and I expect if we see more of him, we'll probably have more runs like this. We also had Peppa with an upset over Quinn and Dakpa with an upset over Demon. Those are two very good wins for those players. And some of the players that underperformed on this side of the bracket is going to be Kronos and Luis. I think they were both seeded for top 16, but unfortunately did not make it. Kronos ran into Salt1, which is tough. He's supposed to lose that. Then he ran into Ven, which is a pretty hard matchup if you don't know it, because Zelda has a lot of tricks, especially against Snake, where you kind of need to know a lot of certain scenarios. That can be very, very difficult. Of course, not discounting Ven's win, because he played amazing and had one of the losers runs of the tournament. We'll talk about that later. But it's like a little bit of an underperformance for Kronos, but still, he's still being very consistent. He shouldn't be too hurt about that one. And another one is going to be Luis, who I also think was top 16 seed. He lost to Mars and Naito, which again, Mars is not a bad loss at all. Mars is an incredible player, and that set was very, very close. And then he lost to Naito, who's one of the best Kazuya players in the world. That man is absolutely insane. He touches you and you die. It's just kind of how Kazuya works, but it's still very impressive that he's able to do it at such a consistent level in tournament. So Luis and Kronos are going to be bowing out a little bit early, but those are probably like some of the bigger upsets, at least for top players not making it into the top 16, at least on like this part of the bracket. Another player that I want to take a look at is going to be Armo, who lost to Quandale Dingle Lingleton to get out of pools, but then he got wins on Jank, Rune Raven, and Kless. The Kless one is very, very good for him, and then had a very close set versus Krieg that he unfortunately wasn't able to play out. But he looked very good this weekend, and it's always nice to see another Byleth player doing well, because I feel like when there's a top player that is so dominant with the rep, you start looking at the character like Byleth, and you start looking at them like Leo. Like when you look about Fox, it's like, okay, this is Fox. Every single situation, you're imagining this is Light in that situation. What does Light do? How does Light react to this? What is the correct way? Because when you look at Light, it's like, yeah, that's just Fox. That's how you play Fox. And I feel like that kind of happens with Leo, but there's different ways you can play Byleth. That character has a lot of creativity, and we don't see a ton of them because they're kind of in that corn range of like, yeah, they're a good swordsman, and they're better than most characters in this game. They're just worse than most swordsmen, so I don't know if you're really going to want to pick them, but Byleth is still obviously an amazing character, and Armo played very well this weekend. It's super sick, again, to see people that have these like super, super top reps, and then people that are just like amazing at the game playing this character in a different way. I always love seeing that, so huge shouts to Armo. I hope we get to see more of them. The next player that we're going to take a look at is going to be Void. For no real reason, I just kind of wanted to look at his run because it's kind of interesting. Void for Summit. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. But we have Void right here, who did lose to Quandale, and he did lose to Capitancito, which we thought would happen because Steve is very tough, and matchup experience versus Gunner is very tough, but he still looked extremely promising this weekend. We saw him get wins on Golden Sai and Sticky. Sticky's a really good win for me, and Sticky beat Risk Taker as well, so shouts to Sticky for that. But Void is a player who's labbing so much in this game, and we saw Jupes. We already saw the Jupes in tournament, which is insane to me, the turnaround on that tech, because you'll have a lot of players that'll lab something. They'll lab something for months. They'll be like, this is how you do this certain combo, and you won't see it in tournaments for like a year. There's still Steve tech that is super, super useful that I have not seen a single Steve player do once in bracket, because it's just really hard to do. But Void is already like 3 weeks or a month in, however long he's been practicing Jupes, he's consistently hitting them in bracket. He's getting those combos. He's getting massive damage off those openings. He just hits you for so much with Sheik. The Sheik neutral is still really, really scary that he's looking like a serious threat. So shouts to Void. He played very well this weekend, as well as Capitancito and Quandale for beating him, because even though I kind of made it sound like gimmicks, those players played very, very well, and beating Void is no easy feat, so they should be incredibly happy with that. Now, the biggest upsets of the bracket all kind of happen in this one concentrated area of Jackal, Krieg, and Chase Mr. E. And Krieg was using mainly, from at least what I saw, Marth, which is kind of insane that Marth is doing well in this current meta. I don't really understand it. I kind of just have to accept that current ultimate anyone could do well, even if it does not make sense. But Krieg played very well with that win over Jackal, as well as making a decent run after that. Mystery, same thing. He had one of the best runs of the tournament. But then you look at the loser side, and Chase and Jackal have to play each other. That's a pretty big upset over Jackal. I guess it's an upset for Chase, but like just an upset that Jackal placed that low. But then you look next, and they had to play against Wrath anyway. So like, this is just such an insane portion of bracket so early on. So many killers just eliminated here. Jackal's out, Chase is out, Cryos is out, Zerg is out. Those are all amazing players, all in this very, very small area. And Wrath was able to make it into top 16. The sets were very close because Chase is an amazing player. Same thing with Jackal. But those are some of the bigger upsets that happened this weekend. But now, without further ado, let's get on to the juicy, juicy stuff of that top 16. If I missed your favorite top player, sorry. Tell me what you want me to cover down below, and I'll be sure to go over how the run was. Now, for our 13th place finishers of Goblin, Frog, Krieg, and Wrath, they all did very well, obviously. It's kind of interesting that you have Frog and Krieg, who are kind of newer gen players, or at least newer gen to this kind of success level of top 16 and Ultimate. Then you have Wrath and Goblin, who have definitely been in this situation before a couple times, especially Goblin, just because he's been doing way more stuff. But let's start with Wrath, who got wins on Chase and Seesaw. He is a player with so much potential. He just doesn't really focus on Smash, which you gotta respect. But I think if Wrath is like, he's kind of placed alongside that tweeter of like Quit. Like, those kind of players are just absolutely unreal. They just don't really go to a ton of stuff. I think Wrath could cause serious damage in any bracket he goes to, and he was able to in this one with wins on Chase. I really hope we get to see more of him. Hopefully he'll get an outlet of whether like he can like fully focus on Smash or he wants to. Whatever the case is, I just want to see more Wrath gameplay. Next one is Krieg with that win on Jackal and Armor. The Jackal win especially is so good. Jackal's probably top 40, 50 player in the world right now. He's one of the best, probably even top 20, maybe even 10 in NA. Jackal is a serious threat. That man is absolutely unreal. Not NA if you're including Mexico, but just like America, Jackal's definitely in that conversation. He is absolutely unreal. Next up is Frog with wins on Goblin. Capsize. Frog, the Goblin win. He's gotten a couple of good upsets before. His biggest one before this would probably be his win at Debuzz on Double Down, or his win on Debuzz at Double Down, sorry. That's a really big win for him, and this is another one to the books. Bayonetta is a character that can cause some serious damage in the current meta. Again, one of those characters that I feel like would get power crept super hard as your top tiers are getting more and more precise with their combo games, but Bayonetta players have figured out ways to make up for their lack of killing by just like comboing you to death, and the killing actually happens at 80 instead of like 150. It's a very, very big difference when Bayos can actually hit their kill confirms, and a 13th place is really good for him. And our last 13th place finisher, because my mic did cut out there, sorry about that, is going to be Goblin, who is absolutely incredible and had a pretty decent weekend. Got wins on Tux, Nexus, and Andric. We already talked about Andric and how that stock's going to go up in 2023 if we see more travel out of him. But Goblin is just such an amazing player. They're so unbelievably consistent. They don't really get talked about enough because a lot of players at Ultimate, if they're not making the top 8, they don't really get the conversation. And Goblin, I don't think they've had a top 8 for a little bit, but they definitely can reach that caliber, and they've beaten multiple top 10 calibers. And when they beat players that are really, really good, they destroy them. Goblin just sometimes goes into this ultra instinct mode. They go absolutely nutty on the sticks. I think the set versus T at Ultimate Summit 4 is the perfect recap of that. I know I bring up the set a lot, but it was just absolutely incredible. But Goblin is an amazing player, got some good wins this weekend, and they should be pretty happy with it. Our first 9th place finisher of Capitancito did very well this weekend. Definitely, again, cementing himself as the best meat gunner in the world with wins on MVD, Void, and Krieg. Capitancito is just so solid. We just don't get to see a ton of him because he is in Dominican Republic and can't travel all the time, but if we could see Capitancito traveling, I imagine he'd be getting these results over and over again because he's just so good. The way he plays this game is incredible. His spacing is real. That win over MVD is really, really big for him. He should be incredibly happy with that run. I really hope we get to see more of him. Our next one is Ven, who also had one of the runs of their life. If you don't know Ven, he plays Zelda, and he got 9th at a major with Zelda. That is crazy. He got wins on Frog, Demon, Abe, and Kronos, all amazing players. Also noted 2 Bayonetta players, so maybe that's a bad matchup for Bayo, but maybe Ven just knows it very well as well. But Ven, absolutely incredible. He should be very, very happy with this run, especially that Kronos win, because again, that Kronos stock is going to go way, way up. Our next player is Naito with wins on Goblin, Midnight Juice, and Luis. That Luis win is so good. Same thing with Goblin as well. Again, these Kazuya players are very, very scary in tournament. They can always make huge upsets in the bracket, and this was unfortunately for the players that in his path. One of those Kazuya runs where Naito just went absolutely ridiculous, played out of his mind. The conversions were clean, the combos were hitting. He just looked very, very good overall. He should be very happy with this one. And our final 9th place finisher is MVD with wins on Wrath, Retro Picks, Grandmaster, and Quandale Dingle-Lingleton. That Wrath win, even though it's probably not going to count that much for a ranking because Wrath probably isn't going to be ranked because he just doesn't go to nothing, That is such a good win because Wrath is just so amazing. And then Quandale is also a very good win because he's pretty high ranked as well. So MVD, again, should be happy with this. Also to note that MVD lost to Mars and Capitancito. So Capitancito is a bit of a tough one. Just like matchup there is pretty hard as well. I don't know if, I think Snake probably does decent, but if you don't know how to play against it, Capitancito is going to blow you up. And then Mars is a huge demon MVD. I think Mars is more of just like a Snake demon in general. Though he did look like he could have figured out, especially game 1. Like MVD was for sure cooking that, and then game 2 slowed down a little bit. Game 3 was that Sora. The Sora didn't honestly look that bad, but MVD played very well this weekend. He is finding solutions to these really hard problems for Snakes, and the Snake players, they're all doing that. There's some players that are just like, you cannot beat Snake with this player, or rather like, Snake players, you're never going to beat Mars, you're never going to beat Leo, you're never going to beat Esam, but they're just like slowly starting to figure out they're becoming more and more scared. It's becoming more and more doable. Like, people got to be aware because these Snake players, they are cooking. Our 7th place finishers are Mars and Zomba. Zomba got wins on Rune Raven, Wrath, and Naito. Again, that Wrath win is really, really good. Even though it probably won't count for that much on a ranking, Wrath is just such an incredible player that beating him just shows how amazing you are. As well as Zomba just proving once again that he is incredibly consistent, one of the best players in the world and in North America. I'd still say he is the best Rob in the world. Even though Anathema has been fighting hard for that title, I would still give it up to Zomba. He is just absolutely incredible. And our other player is going to be Mars, of course, who has found his consistency again, even though he only ever really lost it for like 2 tournaments that he did bad at, and they were both like super mega majors where a lot of people did bad at, so like he wasn't even doing that bad. But still, Mars is back in full force with this top 8 here. Got wins on MVD, Luis, and Peppa. The Luis win is very, very good. Luis is obviously an incredible player who I also think could pop off a little bit more in 2023 because Luis is just absolutely unreal. Same thing with MVD and Peppa. All these players are very incredible. Mars played out of his mind. Did lose to Salt 1 and Tweak. Tweak is a really tough matchup for Mars, and it looked doable. He honestly probably should have won that set versus, or at least the game 2 versus Tweak, because I'm really, really surprised that Up Smash didn't kill on game 2. If you watch the set, you will know what I'm talking about. But Mars played very well this weekend. The Demons, again, they're starting to look doable, though they're still going to be tough to conquer. Maybe it's not the next time, maybe not even the time after that, but eventually I think Mars is going to be able to finally crack that armor on Tweak, who's been a demon for him for so long, which is always a nice, big, huge mental boom that you can get over, and then maybe even get over that as a player, just kind of get past that barrier. So, very happy for Mars. He played very well this tournament. Another top 8 for him under his belt. He should be pretty happy with it. Our 5th place finishers are Salt 1 and Mr. E. Salt 1 with wins on Atlas, Kronos, Capitancito, and Mars. Salt 1 is just so consistent. Even though he did have a bit of a rough streak back there, he seemed to have definitely picked it up with a good Genesis. Just had some unfortunate losses, so the place doesn't really reflect it, to be honest. Had a good Frosty Faustings and had a good Level Up Expo. His losses as well are really, really good. Some of the best of the tournament, only losing to Cosmos and Sonix in 2 matchups that were incredibly close. Cosmos is a rival that he's been going back and forth with. I feel like an unspoken rivalry, honestly, because when these players play, it is always a hot set. And this one was no exception. Cosmos was barely able to take that. Then Sonix's set was so close. He probably should have won Game 3, maybe even Game 4. Game 5, not that, but we'll talk about Sonix. Or we'll talk about that when we talk about Sonix. But, like, Salt 1 is very, very close to beating these players, and he definitely can beat them. He's obviously the caliber of. He's like a top 15, 10 player in the world. Salt 1 is absolutely incredible. Another 5th place for him is a pretty good performance, and he should be decently happy with it. And the other player is Mystery, who had one of the runs of his life. Mystery is like very good player. He was PGR, I think he was PGR probably 30-40 range in the first one, and then he was like a little bit more quiet, moved to EU for a bit, has been doing pretty well there as well, and a very good run here with wins on Ven, Zomba, Chase, and Krieg. Those are all massive upsets, especially the Chase and Zomba ones. He's going to be feeling very, very good about that. One of the best Lucina players in the world, and Lucina's a character that I feel like in this current meta, we don't really see a ton of, which again, surprising, because, you know, this is where the sorties are supposed to dominate, and Lucina's a very good sortie, but, like, it's just kind of uncommon. It feels like people are just more likely to pick Roy, Cloud, Aegis for, like, those super strong things, but obviously Lucina is that very good, well-rounder pick, and Mystery plays her extremely well. All of his sets were very close. His set versus Cosmos was very doable, just barely wasn't able to close it out, but Mystery is absolutely incredible. Super happy that he was able to have another amazing run here, just show everyone how amazing he is. Our 4th place finisher is Cosmos with wins on Dakpo, Frog, Salt 1, and Mystery. That Salt 1 win probably being the biggest one there. Cosmos has been so consistent as of late. It is actually unreal, the amount of consistency. 9th at Genesis, 9th at Let's Make Big Moves, a 4th place here. No bad losses along the way in any of those tournaments. Like, Cosmos has just been looking like such a serious threat as of late. It's so nice to see him back in that form that we know he can be, because it was always the thing of, like, Cosmos is a player with these incredibly high highs, but he's not as consistent, and now he seems to have figured out the consistency, and he's starting to get those high highs back as well. So super happy for him. He looked out of his mind, and it is all with Aegis right now. I know he's experimenting a little bit with Corrin, maybe thoughts of Inkling, maybe even Pikachu were entering his mind. I doubt it, but maybe they were. But it seems like the Aegis is his go-to pick, and the matchups he lost, they were a little bit tough, especially versus Tweak, but Tweak is just, one, very good at that matchup, and two, it's very tough for Aegis. Then sonix as well, kind of the same thing. It's not really a tough matchup for Aegis, but it's just sonix is very good at it. So Cosmos, very good losses, a couple good wins along the way, and his consistency is just another threat that you have to worry about in Ultimate. Our third place finisher is going to be sonix, our first top 10 player of the list, at least like official, unarguable top 10 player. On the list, we have wins on Sticky, Quandale, Zomba, Salt One, and Cosmos was an amazing list of wins. sonix is just absolutely incredible. He can beat literally any player in the world. The only one that seems to have like a consistent problem against, or he has a consistent problem against, is going to be Light for now, and Light does have him figured out for now. He did double eliminate from his bracket. Both of them are 3-0. The games don't look undoable by any means. It just seems very, very tough for sonix. I don't know if it's like more of a matchup thing, because that's one of the matchups that sonix does struggle in. At least like a little bit. Like if I had to pick a losing match for sonix, it'd probably be Aegis, Fox, or Pikachu. So maybe it's a losing match for sonix. Maybe Light's just really good at it. Maybe sonix is bad at it. Maybe it's a little bit of all three. But despite that, sonix had a very good tournament. Definitely top 10 in the world. I have him right now number 6 in the world because his consistency is absolutely unreal. He got 4th at Let's Make Big Moves. He got 3rd at Genesis, and now he has 3rd here. Actually, I think he got 4th at Genesis and 3rd at Let's Make Big Moves. Absolutely insane. sonix is an incredible player. Really, really excited to see what happens to him in 2023 because I think he could skyrocket. Maybe into that, well, definitely probably into that top 5. Maybe even to that number 1 spot though. Like sonix is scary good in bracket. Our second place finisher is going to be Tweak with wins on Copsize, Ondric, Mars, Cosmos, and Light. Now, Tweak is obviously so consistent. The Tweak is washed era. We're all past that. We know he's consistent now. He hasn't had a bad tournament in months. I think his last bad tournament was Genesis, technically, where he got 7th. And that's a bad tournament for him, which just shows how good he has been doing recently. Tweak is absolutely phenomenal. Even though he was seeded to take the whole thing, Light has been a bit of a demon for him recently, so it's not like the biggest upset, and Light's also like probably like 1 spot behind him on a ranking, so again, not that big of a deal. As well as Tweak using a bunch of different characters, which I really like that he's trying different things, and all of his characters, at least against Light, had different levels of success. Diddy Kong had some success, I think mainly in the winners final set, and then Sephiroth and Wario were more the center stage. In the grand final set, it's interesting to see him balancing these characters. It's something that not anyone can just do, and Tweak is so fluent switching between them. It's actually unreal. Also, I just kind of glanced over that. Tweak's Wario's back. I'm super hyped to see it. I know it wasn't like ever, like, it's never been a super officially gone. I think we saw it a bit at Port Priority as well, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it was any success that it mattered or any sets that it mattered. But we saw it here. It took a game off Light in the grand finals. Didn't end up getting him the win, but still pretty interesting to see. I know Light is not a fan of Wario as well because that character has some gimmicks, and Light is obviously very, very good, so he was able to take that. But Tweak is still incredible. I still rank him right now as the best player in NA, though I think it's more up in there. Now I feel like it was clearly Tweak for a little bit there. Now it's back to that, okay, it's either Tweak or it's Light. Maybe if Light goes better at him at Summit, or he does better at Collision, then we can move over to Light. I think it's in that stance where it's kind of like, it is up for grabs, which is always the most hyped time to see. Now, speaking of Light, though, let's just, I guess, transition right into him because he was able to take the big one this weekend. He got a lot of good wins. He got wins on Grandmaster, Capitancito, Mystery, and he got 2 wins on both sonix and Light. Those are like top 6 players, and he got 4 top 10 wins. That is so good for him. Only losing to Tweak again, that's not a loss that really hurts you that much. And he looked just very, very promising the weekend. The convergence were on point. He went for some crazy reads. Light is just obviously incredible. He came back from a very good Genesis as well, and a very good Let's Make Big Moves. It feels like Light has been ramping up. Like he had an okay Scuffed, had a pretty, he had a bad Ludwig, had an okay Scuffed, had a pretty good Let's Make Big Moves, had a good Genesis, and had an amazing Level Up Expo where he won the whole thing. I am scared to see what he does at Collision because I feel like he just might be on a tier. I don't even know if he's going to Collision. Summit, we'll say, because I know he's going there. I'm scared. The next tournament Light's going to be at, it is going to be a problem for everyone else entered, and I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'm curious to see what you guys think of the video, all that kind of stuff. If there's any players that left out, please let me know down below. I'll be sure to cover their runs. And Olin is just in such an interesting spot right now. Our top 3 of sonix, Light, and Tweak gave such good stories, and they all played so well. Like, they're all top of their game, absolutely incredible. And it seems like it's almost this triangle of, like, these just super top players playing consistently. I don't even know what I meant by that triangle, by the way, so I'm just going to ignore that. But again, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry this video was a little bit more rambly, but I am a little bit tired, so you'll have to excuse me. Support has been absolutely unreal lately, so be sure to sub, all that yada yada, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.